So good evening, everybody that's here. I'd like to welcome you all to TYC's Mental Health Forum. My name is Shawn Yamaguchi. I'm a senior and I've been on TYC for the past 3 years. Tonight we've got quite a lot in store for you, starting with a speech from our speaker, Jeff Yeldon, who's just kind of talked, and followed by a series of prompts that allow you to share your feelings or vent about certain aspects of your life, if you're comfortable, of course. I'll be your main facilitator alongside the rest of my fellow TYC members. Now I'll let Neelaj introduce the other members of TYC that are also present here tonight.
All right, thank you, Shawn. So hi, my name is Neelaj Das, and this is my 3rd year on TYC, and I'm pleased to introduce my fellow Torrance Youth Council. So firstly, I'd like to present our staff liaison, Ms. Reed, Mrs. Minter, and Mrs. Sexton. And now I present Summer Fan, Kelly Chong, Willie Rowe, and Eugene Ju from Torrance High School. I present Cameron Burgo from North High School. I present Harry Kaplan, Jennifer Kim, and Darren Matterman from South High School. I present Henry Hasna from Bishop Montgomery High School. And I present Shelby Coleman, Jeffrey Viraj Allah, and myself from West High School. I present Suji Kim from El Camino. And lastly, I present Shawn Yamaguchi, Jeannie Kim, Christina Park, and Susanna Ye from CAMS.
Thank you, Neelaj, for the introductions. So once again, hello everyone. I'm Youth Council member Susanna Ye, representing CAMS, California Academy of Mathematics and Science. And so now I would like to tell you a little bit about our guest speaker tonight. Jeff Yeldon has educated and consulted with mental health profession leaders, top-rank military personnel, and over 5 million people. He's a veteran, an author, a TEDx speaker, a certified yoga instructor, a golfer, and a pilot. Jeff has retired from 30 years of traveling and speaking and currently works for Here Tomorrow, which is a mental health collaborative in Neptune Beach, Florida. As the Director of Education and Community Outreach, he develops strategies for reaching the community with the goal of normalizing the conversations about mental health. Jeff proudly lives with mental health conditions and says, quote, "Being diagnosed with major depression, bipolar type 2, and PTSD was one of the greatest moments of my life, because I came to realize that all along, I was the problem and the source of situations, circumstances, and things that happened in my life." Jeff is now married and has 4 children. So now it is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker tonight, Mr. Jeff Yeldon.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You guys are very well spoken. I'm kind of thinking to myself, why me? I've always dealt with, it takes me a minute to get going. I do struggle with anxiety, and it takes me a minute to like find myself and get comfortable with the message. And like I said earlier, I always thought that if I just can't be real, and I'm not here reading off of a flip chart behind me or using a PowerPoint, because if you're going to judge me for how organized my talk is, I'm going to fail right away, because I speak from my heart. This is my heart to yours. And I'm going to ask you a question. Don't answer it. Maybe if you want, write it down. We'll talk about it after. But who's the hardest person to get to know? And if you're like most people I talk to, you're probably thinking ourselves, me, us. I ask that question every time I talk to every audience, whether it's a middle school audience, high school teachers, mental health professionals, doctors, professional athletes, college athletes, and I get the same answer: ourselves, us, me. And yet we spend our whole lives trying to figure that out. I think one of the things I really like about talking to young people is, if you can start asking that question now, you're going to save yourself so many years of heartache and hardship and troubling times. When people ask me, "Hey, Jeff, you've worked with young people for many years. What do you think is the most important thing that we can give young people?" I don't even hesitate. I say self-esteem. And as you walk away with this message tonight, I want you to value yourself more than any person, more than any place, more than anything. Having said that, know that it's okay to not be okay. What does that mean? Mental health today is very different than it's ever been. You know, we could be talking about clinical diagnosis of mental health conditions, or we could just be talking about what's really popular amongst our young people today: stress, anxiety, being overwhelmed, the desire or thought that I have to be perfect, and if I'm not perfect, what's the point? Perfection doesn't exist. What is important is that you become aware of your thoughts and feelings and what they might mean. And I'm going to tell you, thoughts are thoughts. Like an arm is an arm, a leg is a leg. Thoughts are what they are. They're just thoughts. What matters are your feelings. And women are stronger than men emotionally. Women are better than men at being emotionally present, talking about their feelings. When you look at men today, according to the CDC, and I have a good friend, Dr. Alex Crosby, who works for the CDC, white males 45 to 60 years old, that is the #1 percentage of suicide, the age group in America today. White males 45 to 60. Here's what Dr. Crosby says, and here's why. Men, we're taught, you know, we're problem solvers. We fix things. So we have to be strong and we have to be tough. That's how we're raised for the most part. And so we don't talk about our feelings. It's almost like we've been told it's a sign of weakness. Well, here's what Dr. Crosby said. They did research on white males 45 to 60, those that ended their lives by suicide. And what they determined was their brain, the trauma from their adolescence years was so severe and they never dealt with it. Talking about feelings, if you don't learn to speak out, you will act out. That's why it's important. You have feelings, it's okay to share them. Because if you don't, you keep it in, it manifests and it comes out some point where you start exploding, especially if you don't have problem solving skills or coping skills. So I want you to get comfortable being uncomfortable, having these conversations with your friends, with significant people in your life, that it's okay to talk about your feelings. It's okay to not be okay. But when you're feeling not okay, also know it's okay to ask for help. And who might that be? It could be friends. I think the most important person in a child's life is that same-sex parent. And I understand some of you, well, Jeff, you don't understand my family. They don't do mental health. My family, they tell me, get over it. You're too young. I get it. But you can't tell me that you don't have significant adults in your life that you can't go to. I'm having try. I don't want to lecture. I would love for you to be at that point in life where this is the growth mindset. If you have a question, don't ever be afraid to search for the answer and ask the people for the answer. Because when you ask enough times, I promise the answer will appear. I'm 50 years old, and I want to share with you the greatest regret, the greatest pain that I have in my life. And that is that in order for me to be the man that I am today, and I'm not even nowhere near the man that I want to be, Matthew McConaughey talks about, I'm aspiring to be the man that I want to be. And when I feel like I've gotten to be the man that I want to be, I'm going to continue to aspire to become a better man. Having said that, I live with mental illness. I do proudly. I'm diagnosed with major depression, bipolar type 2, and post-traumatic stress disorder. And I say proudly because when I got diagnosed, around 2014 is about the time that I got serious about being with the psychiatrist. I'm like, what's going on here? The day that I got diagnosed, it was like this weight was lifted off my shoulders. And I was in a meeting earlier today talking about that moment and like, why was that a good moment for you? I'll tell you why. Because when I was growing up at 16, 17, 18, my parents sucked, the teachers sucked, my coaches sucked, my girlfriend, she was an idiot. It was always him, her, this, that. When I got diagnosed, I remember looking in the mirror and I started to realize that, well, maybe it wasn't them. That the problem was, maybe I'm the problem. And that was just a really impactful moment, because that's about self-reflection. That's about who's the hardest person to get to know. We say ourselves. So here I am, 50 years old, saying myself. Here you are, 17 years old, saying myself. You've got like 35 years on me. But when there's something that's not right in your life, to look in the mirror first and say, well, what part in this am I playing? And that was, so when I got diagnosed, I can deny it, avoid it, and be like, nope, they don't know what they're talking about. But I looked in the mirror, I accepted it, I acknowledged it, and I made a decision. And the decision was, I wasn't going to let my mental health conditions own me, but I was going to learn about it and I was going to own it. So if something might be a stressor to me, I have a choice. I can react, or with the tools, I could respond. And so you've heard that from people. Listen, when you react, you get in trouble. I want you to respond. Respond is about taking time to think, taking time to lower your anxiety, to make healthy choices. I also have something that I call always practice the I over the E. Never the E above the I. The I is intellect over emotion. I say the 4 T's. Take time to think. If your parents are being jerkheads, practice this. Inhale peace, exhale love. That's about breathing. So for me to be the man that I am today, my greatest regret in life is that I have hurt people in the process of becoming the man I am today. I want to tell you something right now, and you're going to judge me, and I'm okay with that, because as I had to process this, I had to get comfortable sharing this, knowing you're going to judge me, but I'm going to try and make a really meaningful point out of this story. My wife, Marsha, and I, we were married for 17 years. She's an amazing woman. She's got a great man in her life. He's a better man than me. And I love the guy. I still love my ex-wife. We're good where we are, but I want to tell you how we got divorced. After 17 years, I remember she was in the hospital having a full hysterectomy, very serious procedure for women. And it was about 9:30 this morning, and I was on my way to pick her up and bring her home. And so I arrive at the hospital. I go up there. I get her, listen to the doctor, blah, blah, blah. We get in the car, and we're driving home. And we had a note from the doctor that said 30 days bed rest, mandatory, no work, no cooking, no exercising, no cleaning, no shopping, nothing, 30 days bed rest. We pull in the driveway, and I like to think I'm a gentleman. I get out of the car and I walk around, I open the door for her, and I walk her upstairs to the bedroom, and I get her in the bedroom and I get her comfortable. And I remember I said to her, hey, can I get you anything? Do you want any water, some food, the remote, a book? She says, no, I'm okay. And that was the moment that I walked out on her forever. And, you know, that is, it's not okay. I say it's not okay because as I look back at that moment, she was my number one. She needed me more then than ever before. I made a commitment to her and I walked out on her. Now, we have a good relationship now. I've asked her for forgiveness. She's forgiven me. The hardest person to really forgive sometimes is yourself. And I want to ask you another question. As you might be judging me, and it's okay, because you might be thinking, dude, what an insensitive, arrogant, pompous, how could you? I get it. But have you ever done or said something you wish you didn't do or say? Sure. We're not perfect. We'll never be perfect. I want to tell you more of the story. You know, Marcia, for 17 years, she has never seen me speak publicly. I was abused as a child. My parents are both alcoholics. My parents have never seen me speak publicly other than on YouTube or maybe watching a video like this. My father's 77 years old. My father still has never told me he's proud of me. And I've learned that that's okay. And here's why. I've come to learn that you only know what you know. You don't know what you don't know. And so let's go back to Marcia. She's never seen me speak. Let me tell you why. In the very beginning, she said, well, I'm afraid to see you speak because if you come to our school and speak and the kids laugh at you, I'm going to want to protect you. I remember thinking, oh, that's sweet. Yeah. But 17 years? 17 years we're married. You didn't come to when I was inducted into the Speakers Hall of Fame. You didn't come when I spoke at Columbine, Parkland, Santa Fe, Sandy Hook. But here's the point I want to make. Let's not look at her and say, well, how could you not do that? Again, you look in the mirror and say, what part did I have in this? Self-reflection. How is she supposed to change if she doesn't know what needs to change? So as I look back on it, I never communicated to her what was important to me. So if I don't communicate, she's not going to know. I can't expect her to change because she doesn't know. So the bottom line is I never sat down with her and said, hey, Marcia, look, having you there would mean more to me than anything. And if the audience laughs at me, that's okay. But having you there to support me, that would be amazing. And so I never communicated that. And so it's a lot less her issue. It's more my issue. Communication is so important. And this isn't just about mental health or physical health. It's communication with your parents, communication with your friends, coaches, teachers. Communication is so important. Now let's look at my parents. My father, two-time Vietnam veteran, struggles with his own mental health conditions. My dad did the best he could with what he knew. But I've come to learn, and I said earlier, you only know what you know. You don't know what you don't know. So I can choose to be a victim, but listen, you're smart people. I do not like the word victim. I don't want you to be a victim. I want you to choose to be a victor. I don't want you to be bitter. I don't want you to be angry. I don't want you to live with resentment. I don't want you to live with hate. I want you to choose to be better in everything you do. That's not perfection. And I'm not saying every day we got to strive to be our best. What I am saying is every day you wake up, you get up, you dress up, you show up. That's it. Do the best you can. Be present. Choose the growth mindset, not the fixed mindset. And as I'm speaking right now, I'm having a feeling that you guys are all way smarter than I ever was when I was your age. And I'm okay to say that. I spent my whole high school career thinking about me. I spent my 20s thinking about me, 30s thinking about me. I'm now 50 years old, finally thinking about everybody else, not about me. So when I say, I want you to be the victor, not the victim. I want you to be better, not bitter. I don't know what you've been through. I don't know what you've been through yesterday, last month, last year. I don't know. I don't know what you're going through now. I don't know what you're going to go through tomorrow or down the road. But I'm going to tell you something. Everything that we go through, it teaches you. That's the growth mindset. When you're not the victim, you're the victor. Everything we experience in life, rejection, loss, disappointment. I mean, you ever been disappointed? Sure. Let me ask you this, you smart people. We've been disappointed, but have you ever wondered where disappointment comes from? Let's talk about that after. Make sure you make a note on that. I have learned that disappointment comes from our expectations not being met. I mean, think about it. We have expectations of our friends. We have expectations of our classmates. You know, we're supposed to be nice, supposed to be kind and supportive to one another. Expectations to our parents. They're supposed to be loving and they're supposed to provide us with everything. We have expectations of our teachers. I hope you're a cool teacher, because if you're not, I wish I had the other teacher or something. Rarely are expectations ever met. And when they're not met, we're left disappointed and frustrated. I've learned this. I don't have expectations anymore. I focus on the objective. You see, the objective is I want to learn. The objective is, hey, what's my schedule today? Did I check my calendar yesterday to make sure I got everything going on today? My objective is, hey, what time am I speaking tonight? 9 p.m. Eastern? Boom, I got to get my stuff ready, because at 8 o'clock, I want to start turning my focus. At 8:45, I want to be able to turn it on. My objective is, what time do I got to be at school? Did I have a good breakfast? Did I show up on time? Am I prepared? When you focus on the objective, you'll never be disappointed, because that's more important than the expectation. And if you have that every single day, here's another objective. No matter what you're dealing with in life, there's 5 things that I think are really important. Number 1, hope. My friends, don't ever lose hope. Hope comes from you having a purpose. And I'm not telling you that you have to know what you want to do or what you want to be. I'm just simply saying, if your purpose every day is to wake up, get up, dress up, and show up with the growth mindset and be present, you're the top 10 of your class. You're the top 10 of people your age. You do that every day, the answer will arrive. So number 1, hope. Always believe you're smart enough, you're capable, you have the ability. People will have their opinion. That's their opinion. That doesn't have to be your opinion. But no, you can't change people. You can't change places. You can't change things. You can't change your friends, but you can change your friends. Bam, that was good. I don't know if you got it. You can't change your friends, but you can choose to change your friends. Nothing changes if nothing changes. So change has to come from within you. Number 1, hope. Number 2, personal responsibility. Personal responsibility is the objective attitude versus the expectation attitude, because the world doesn't owe you anything. I want you to go through tough times, and I want you to go through it with grace. I want you to go through it with patience. Because again, I think if things are handed to you, you're not going to appreciate it. You're not going to know what resilience is and grit is. So personal responsibility, be where you should be, doing what you should do at the time you should be doing it. You don't have to be perfect. So 1, hope, responsibility. Number 3, self-advocacy. If you have a question, don't ever be afraid to ask the question. But many of us, we're afraid to ask the question because we're afraid of what people might think or what people might say or what people might do. That's their issue. It ain't yours. And so when you want to get something done, you do it with grace, you do it with class, you do it with respect. Because I promise you, if there's something you want, you got to ask the right people. My friends, listen. Advocate, advocate, advocate. There's something you want, you go to the people and you ask, how do I make this happen? And I think we live in a world where people want to help people and people want to help people that want to help themselves and better themselves. So number 1, hope, personal responsibility, advocate for yourself. Number 4, education. But education, it's not just about going to USC or Northeastern or this college. That education is every single day. Education is with your friends, it's with your teachers. It's the growth mindset, not the fixed mindset. I'll give you something else about education. There's 2 feelings that young people are feeling today. Number 1, I feel alone. Number 2, I feel like I'm a disappointment. A lot of this is coming from the device. Listen, I think these devices are the best in the world. But I'll tell you, if you spend more than 4 or 5 hours a day on this device, you're 70% more likely to have major depression in your life. These devices, there's a chemical in it, you probably know this, called dopamine. And it's called the dopamine effect. It says, I want more, I want more, I want more. Listen, I think we need to use these devices with, like everything else, balance and boundaries. A little bit at a time. Use it for what it's used for. But when people spend hours upon hours, we fall into this isolation. Isolation is toxic. The more time we spend on this, the more alone we feel. You might not even be alone, but you start to feel like you don't have meaningful relationships because you're looking at what everybody else is doing, and you start to feel the effect of, well, why wasn't I invited? Why don't I have any likes? Why are they commenting on theirs? They don't comment on mine. Put the device down a little bit and get more involved. Because if you don't, then this starts to lead you to feeling, well, I'm a disappointment. I don't want to talk because I don't want to be a burden. My family has problems. And if I start to tell them my problems, then my problems can be compounded on top of their problems. And I know that they're struggling and I don't want them to struggle. If you don't speak out, you act out. What happens then is alone, disappointment, or burdensome. And then my theory for teen suicide is a desire to want to die. But listen, I have never met somebody that wants to die. I've met people that want the pain to end. We all want the pain to end. But life, and this is unfortunate, growing up today, you only know what you know. I mean, think about it. You go to an ATM, you put your debit card in the machine, cash comes out. You send a text to your peeps, you get a response. You post a picture, you get likes. Life is not in the here and the now. When you have problems in life, things that, oh man, I got to take care of this, it doesn't end overnight. Time is the only thing that will hold you accountable in life. And sometimes you need to take a time out. Number 5, support. Have a support network. This is your friends. This is your family. This could be like going to college next year. You're going to meet some great friends. These are like your adult advisors within your youth group or something. It could be your youth pastors. And these people become those people that you reach out to when you need someone to talk to. I also want to invite you as student leaders, be the upstander in this leadership role, when you see people that are struggling, and I'll tell you this, here's how you know someone's struggling. You see red flags. I don't want to give you the science behind it, but if you see someone that you know personality's different, they're acting irrational, red flags, that's just not, say something to the individual. Now, here's what we do. We say, hey man, how you doing? What's the typical response when you ask someone that? It's like, I'm fine. What does I'm fine mean? It means I'm fine, leave me alone, I don't want to talk about it. I have a question I've learned to ask. Here's the question. Hey man, how's your heart? How's your heart? Because that question answers the two questions that people ask about you every day. Think about it. Can I trust you? And do you care about me? That's it. In all relationships, those two questions have to be answered. And when you say to someone, hey, how is your heart? That's a difficult question to avoid. It's kind of like, oh, you care? Of course I care. Of course I care. And so I want you to go through life being compassionate and empathetic, but I don't want you to have to carry the darkness or the brokenness or the pain of those of your friends that are going through some tough times. So you can be compassionate and empathetic, but you can't carry the darkness. Let me get back to I'm alone, I'm a burden, disappointment, a desire. When we don't speak out, we act out. That act out comes in the form of self-harm. Now, I'll tell you why young people have trouble speaking out. You're afraid that you're going to be judged. You don't want someone to fix it. You're afraid that your feelings aren't going to be validated. The problem is, if you don't speak out, you want control, you want to have the feeling. So self-harm is a way of you acting out. It's you having the control of the feeling. And it's not just cutting. Self-harm could be reckless behavior. It could be punching yourself. It could be pulling your hair. It could be self-medicating, alcohol. It could be vaping. It could be pot. I was speaking at a college in Michigan before COVID, probably a year and a half ago. 400 student athletes. College senior captain of the football team comes up to me after my talk and he says, hey, Jeff, man, can I ask you a question? I said, yeah, man. He said, what do you think about as an athlete smoking pot? And I said to you guys earlier, I said, if I can't be honest, I don't want to do this. I said to the young man, I said, listen, I don't drink. I've never even tried a cigarette. But I said, let me ask you a question. And I thanked him. I said, I appreciate you asking me that question. I said, maybe after a game, you and the boys, you go out, you take a hit. I don't know. Or could it be that, is there something that is troubling you in life so that by taking a hit or smoking pot, it makes you feel better that you don't have to deal with this right now? And he starts shaking his head. He says, yeah. So there's something going on. He says, yeah, I'm a senior. I'm getting ready to graduate. My girlfriend and I we haven't been doing great. I'm fighting with my parents. I said, let me ask you another question. I said, so you're avoiding your feelings and you're self-medicating to help you cope. I said, all right. I said, what if I can give you in a healthy way exactly what you're looking for and receiving in an unhealthy way? Would you care to hear that? He says, well, yeah. I said, on college campuses, you get free counseling. He says, yeah, but I'm the captain of the football team. What if the team finds out that I'm talking to one of the counselors? I said, how awesome would that be? He said, what do you mean? I said, you're a captain, right? He says, yeah. I said, what is leadership? He said, leadership is, kind of, being their leader and you know, being at the top where I kind of guide them and coach them. Yeah. I said, leadership is influence. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And if these football players look at you as their captain, and they might come to you and be, dude, why are you in counseling? You have the opportunity to say to them, man, I'm getting ready to graduate. My life's about to change. I'm the captain of the football team. I want to learn to be a better leader. And I thought, you know, let me talk to someone who's not in my inner circle, but someone who could be non-judgmental, someone that can compassionately listen. You see, when you can compassionately listen to somebody, you don't even have to know what to say. But if you can just be present and listen with your heart, you relieve the suffering of the person that is needing to do the talking. I said, why don't you think about talking to somebody? We're still friends today, and he's still in counseling and he loves it. My friends, have a group of people that are supportive and use them every single day. I want to ask you 3 questions, because I think these 3 questions will help you understand what success is as you try to achieve that in life. And we're going to talk about this after. When I lay my head in the pillow at night, I ask 3 questions every day. Question number 1, is my life meaningful? What does that mean to you? What it means to you is different than what it means to your parents. It's different than what it means to me. It's different than what it means to your friends. It's different in 8th grade than it is a high school senior. And it'll probably be different when you're in college. Is my life meaningful? Let me ask you something. Hey, Sean, are you listening? Sean's listening.
Yes, sir. Oh, yeah.
When I go home tonight about 11 o'clock at night, I'm going to think back. I'm a 50-year-old dude. I got to spend time with 30, 20, 30, 40 young people. And I got to share a message that maybe you're hearing some of it. That gives me meaning. Number 2 is my life fulfilling? Is my heart full? I got to meet Sean. Sean's going to USC and another gentleman's going to Northeastern. Some of you going to other schools. I got to speak to you. I got to listen. We can get all caught up in the presidential election, but you know what? I come to realize that the more I pay attention to things that I have no control over, my anxiety goes through the roof. I focus on every Saturday from 9 to 12, I volunteer in my community. Because my attitude is, how can I be a better neighbor? How can I be a better friend? How can I do my part in the world to make it a little bit better? And so I'm thinking, I have meaning in my life. I get to speak about a topic I'm passionate about. My heart is full. You chose to listen. Number 3, is my life rewarding? My life is rewarding because I choose to do something that I'm passionate about every single day. I might work 60, 70, 80 hours a week, but I don't think I work at all. The challenge for you is if you say, is my life meaningful, fulfilling, and rewarding? And if there's any night where you say, no, you got to look in the mirror and you got to say, okay, what change do I need to make? And you got to have the courage to make that change. And so at your age, 17, 23, 24, you start thinking that way now, you're not going to be 50 years old like me saying, I was married for 17 years and I walked out on her on the day that I brought her home from the hospital. I have to live with that for the rest of my life. And I'm okay with it, because I've had to process and I've had to make amends, but I don't want you to do to others what I've had to do to be the man I am today. I'm the healthiest I've ever been. I'm more present than I've ever been. I'm having more fun than I've ever been, but my heart hurts that I've had to hurt people to get to where I am. So those three questions I think are really important. My life, meaningful, fulfilling, and rewarding. I want to give you three things I think are really important too, every day. Number one, sleep. I know you're overworked. I get it, but I think young people need 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep every single day. And if you're ugly, you need more. Now, I'm not saying you're ugly. Don't get all upset, but maybe you have an ugly attitude. Like, listen, I got daughters. And so they come downstairs and they're like 28 and 29 right now. And I'm like, oh, good morning, honey. Like, how about shut up forever? Ugly attitude. That's what I'm saying. You need more sleep. Number two, nutrition. You want to talk about mental health? Sugar and depression are best friends. So I'm saying more protein, less carbs, more water, less fruit juice and soda. Number three, put the device down a little bit. Stay involved. I mean, you tell me 3 years you've been on this committee. Why am I talking? You are doing amazing things already. Continue moving forward with the right people, asking the right questions, doing the right things. But if there's something that you're starting to feel just not right, a little sad, and it's like prolonged for a little, go talk to somebody. There's nothing wrong with having someone to talk to. At the end of the day, I think what really matters most is your attitude, the choices you make, and your behavior. But when it comes to behavior, your behavior is a result of your feelings from your thoughts. So situation happens, you immediately have thoughts. If you're not thinking in your right frame, your thoughts are probably more, I'm the victim. Nobody likes me. Nobody cares about me. Why me? Self-esteem, thoughts, let it go. Because if you don't have good thoughts, now all of a sudden your feelings are affected because of negative thoughts. And if your feelings are affected, now behavior is going to be bad. So one of the things I think is so important, self-care. Movement, motion changes emotion. So things that are important to you, do every day. Things that make you happy, do every day. Be an advocate for other people. And this conversation about mental health, we need to be comfortable being uncomfortable talking about mental health, because we will give people permission to say it's okay to not be okay. And when you're not okay, it's okay to talk to somebody. So without further ado, let's move right into, does anybody have any questions or comments?
Kind of at the beginning of your speech, you talked about some of your regrets and how you really feared regret and kind of learned to embrace it. Could you kind of give us a little more details on how you learned to cope with regret and learn to just kind of deal with that as a whole?
Yeah, man, Sean, great question. Sean, do you know why we forgive people?
For me, it's mostly just kind of having that closure, knowing that both of us are on even terms and we're ultimately kind of comfortable with the position that we're in now.
Yeah. You see, we don't forgive people for them to say what you did is okay. We choose to forgive people so that we can move forward. So to answer your question, I've continued to have to look myself in the mirror every day and learn to love myself. And I think I can honestly say I'm a very confident person. I'm not arrogant, and I've always been confident on the outside, but I think I haven't been so much on the inside. And through self-care and self-work, I think I've really had to like let go of some of the things that I have done, the hurt. I was never a bully, but you know, my mental health has caused some damage in my life. But when I say make amends, I've gone to everybody that I know I have hurt and I've asked for forgiveness. Most people have forgiven me. Some people haven't. And that's okay. I can't change them. But I think one of the big things is, you know, in suicide prevention, you ever see the semicolon? You guys know what that means? The semicolon means, you know, the sentence in English, the sentence is not over, right? The semicolon in suicide prevention, you might see people have it on one of their books or a sticker, or you see people with a tattoo. It means my life is not over yet. I don't like the word yet, but I like the semicolon because I look at where I came from to who I am and who I want to be. And I say semicolon. Matter of fact, if you look behind me, you can see semicolon and the word love. I like to do acrylic painting. It's part of my self-care. I did this picture right here that's on my couch. Semicolon, the word love. What's the difference between a flower and a weed? Anybody know? Judgment. Judgment. Look at one differently than the other. I have learned in my self-growth, I don't judge anymore because I feel like if I'm judging you, I'm not paying attention to my imperfections. And I have a lot of them. So I try and focus more on being the best man that I can be. And so that's the semicolon love. I want to be compassionate. I want to not live with resentment, anger. I want to be supportive. I want to be kind. I want to live with gratitude. Again, replace the expectation with appreciation. So, Sean, great question. I'm still doing it every day. But that's part of who we are. Every single day we work on being a better person. Every day we work on getting our mindset right. Great question. Thank you. Anybody else?
You mentioned earlier that expectations lead to disappointment, but like if you don't set sort of like expectations, wouldn't you like not get like the most out of everything when you settle for like, you know, anything below a typical, you know, expectation?
Yeah, that's a good question. So let me go with that a little bit. I don't want you to be somebody's plan B or second option. So maybe there's an expectation to where you're not going to let people treat you less than how you believe you deserve to be treated, with respect, with kindness. However, I think if you go through life and you expect everybody to hold the door for you, or you expect people when you're walking across the parking lot to stop their car, you're going to be greatly disappointed. So like this morning, I got up, and when I went to work out, my workout facility is about 1.75 miles from my house. So I ride my bike every morning at about 5:30 to go work out. I ride my bike home. And so I have to stop at a couple intersections. And specifically this morning, a lady came up in the car and she stopped short to let me pass. And I remember I just, in an exaggerating way, I said, "Hey, thank you very much. I hope you have a good day." And I just smiled. So I didn't expect her to stop, but she did. And I acted out in kindness, just saying, "Hey, thank you. I appreciate it." Maybe she'll stop for the next person. I love what you said, though. I am going to expect and not allow someone to treat me any less. Maybe that's your inner circle. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think that was a great point you made, though. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else?
Like if somebody were to like reach out to you, and then like, sorry, like not try and carry the darkness from them over to yourself, like how do you like try and prevent like their kind of what they're feeling like affecting you? And like if you're trying to reach out to someone, like what's the best way to like try not to like bring darkness to them as well, and like vice versa, if that makes sense.
This is a great question. I was waiting for that to come up. Thank you. You have a responsibility that if one of your friends isn't thinking clearly, but you recognize red flags, hey man, how is your heart? I don't want you to fix it. I don't want you to say, oh, I have to know the answers. I don't want you to be overwhelmed. I don't want you to freak out. I want you to validate their thoughts and feelings. I want you to compassionately listen to their heart. Where I say you have a responsibility, if somebody comes to you, they want help. They might not be admitting it. They might say, hey, don't tell blah, blah, blah. You know who this person's support network is, their parents, a teacher, a coach or something. You can go to one of their adults, your counselor or teacher, and say, listen, I'm a little concerned about so-and-so. That person probably is not going to use your name, but they're probably going to go and say, hey, listen, I'm wondering, are you feeling okay? Is there something I can do? You do not want something to happen and you realize that you should have said something when you knew something was wrong, but you didn't, to protect that person. Will they may be upset with you? Sure. In the end, they're going to be thankful that you did for them what they were having trouble doing for themselves. So here's the thing I want you to remember. I like what they call QPR, question, persuade, refer. And there's also mental health first aid. I like these programs. What I don't like about them, they don't go into what makes a person feel that they might be suicidal or showing suicidal ideation. So if you are suspecting someone, number one, it's okay to ask the question, are you thinking about hurting yourself? Do you have a plan? What does that look like? How long have you been thinking this way? And if there are red flags that come from this question, that means more so I need to talk to someone. Don't ever leave them alone. So the question now, it's persuade. Persuade them to say it's okay to talk to so-and-so teacher. It's, hey, why don't you talk to my mom? Because maybe they have a good relationship with you and your mom, but they don't have that relationship with their mom. Persuade them, hey, why don't you come over to my house? Let's talk to my mom. Persuade them, a teacher, a counselor. Refer them to the right people. That is all you can do. And if you do that, you don't have to carry the darkness because you did the right thing. Susanna, does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we have that responsibility for each other. And I know how hard it is because I deal with it every day in my office. We do the difficult right over the easy wrong. And that's one of the hard things about being a leader. Yeah, great question, man. And any other questions?
Sophia asked, you said earlier, thoughts are thoughts, but thoughts lead to actions like self-harm. A quote that I like stated, a gun isn't dangerous. The thought that makes the gun go off is dangerous. Also, how would you combat self-harm and negative thoughts within yourself?
So I appreciate the question. I think you heard something wrong, or maybe I said it and I want to recap. Thoughts don't lead to action. Thoughts are just what they are. But then I talked about feelings. We need to be comfortable talking about feelings, because if we don't, we keep it in, it manifests and explode. Think about men 45 to 60, like I talked about it, day after day, week after week, month after month. Our obligations are bigger, responsibilities are greater. If we don't have coping skills and we don't know how to talk about our feelings, it's that easy to make a forever decision. Men typically firearm, women typically poison or strangulation. You're mature. I'm going to share something with you that I might be crossing a boundary because we're virtual, but I trust that you're mature enough. If let's talk about it. Or so men typically will use a firearm unless it's the military, then men and women are the same. Women typically poison or strangulation. Here's what's interesting. Men are 4 times more likely than women to complete the act of suicide. Complete. Women, though, are 3.5 more times likely than men to attempt suicide. Does that make sense? The key word, complete and attempt. Think about that. You take a firearm, it's an emotional reaction, a split decision. When you think about poison or strangulation, it's there's time, space between thought and action. So then it's like, should I write the letter? What am I going to say in the letter? Who's going to find me? What should I wear? Where should I do this? And so when there's that space between thought and action, you come to and realize this is not the right thing to do. Like, I've never had a boy come to me and say, I overdosed and went to my parents and said what I did. But I can't even tell you how many girls I've had in my office or in schools that said, I'll never forget, I overdosed and I went right to my mom. I said, Mom, I did a bad thing, and they rushed me to the hospital. Put space between thought and action. That's why I say I over the E, intellect over emotion. So the other part to your question is, how can you overcome negative thoughts? Affirmations, spending time in the mirror. And Darren, I'll tell you something. If you don't like the reflect, and I'm not speaking to you, I'm generalizing. If you don't like the reflection that looks back in the mirror, don't blame it on the mirror. Spend more time there. Spend more time there and talk to yourself in a you are smart. You are handsome or pretty. You are strong. I'll tell you something else too. If people walk out on you, let them go. Here's some people come into your life for one of 2 reasons. Either to plant seeds or to pick the fruit and walk away. And you have to have that respect for yourself that if somebody walks out on you, you know, they weren't meant to be a part of your life. But I challenge you to not be that person to other people. Come into people's lives and plant seeds. And when I talked about that semicolon love, one thing yoga taught me, I don't do yoga to get better at postures and breathing. I do yoga to get better at life. Something's not right. You're feeling sad or angry, resentful. You're having trouble forgive. Make a note. This is just for you, but we could talk about, what do you do to help yourself? Let's say your anxiety on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 is really high stress, you're anxious, you're overwhelmed. 1 is very low. If you're living at a 7 and your little brother hits you, what are you going to do? You're going to jack him up, right? And then who gets in trouble? You probably, what do you do? You mom, he hit me first. And then as a parent, I'm like, you're the older brothers, you know better. It's not fair. So how can you bring yourself from a 7 to a 4? So if your little brother hits you, you can be like, stupid kid. and let it go. So write down some of your coping skills. How do you deal with people?
I think one way I cope is just like by crying. Like I'll just cry for an hour and just kind of let it all out, and it feels a lot better at the end.
For me, when I get really mad, I play guitar really loudly. I've actually broken a couple of strings because of my anger. But it helps me out rather than like taking it out on somebody else or taking it out on myself.
I'd rather you break strings than go punch a tree. Or I'd rather you punch the pillow. I'd rather you yell and curse on the pillow than yell and curse at your mom or dad. You know, there's consequences to actions, so we can get another string. But crying, I think, is a great thing. And thank you for sharing that, because some people like think crying is a weakness. Talking about your feelings is a weakness. It's good. What else?
I think ever since like COVID, since we're all inside and like online learning is like a lot of stress. Usually what my family does is every weekend we'll go out to like PV and like walk around and watch the sunset, and like looking at the ocean like calms me down a lot and like kind of relieves my stress.
Yeah, I live, I don't know if you know anything about the East Coast, but in Jacksonville, Ponte Vedra, there's a road called A1A. I'm literally 200 yards from the Atlantic Ocean right now. And I've been at work since like 6:30 this morning. I'm thinking when I leave here in the next hour, I might just go spend 20 minutes walking the beach just to decompress. Absolutely. And that's also appreciation, the fresh air, and good. What else? Harry, you were going to say something.
For me, I like going on a drive with the windows open and with tunes blaring.
Darren, what do you do? Sean, what do you do?
We have an answer in the chat that kind of answered your question. Madeline O'Connor says, I usually try to reach out to friends and connect when I found those moments, because when I have those episodes, my instinct is to isolate. And I've learned that those moments are when I need to support the most, you know? I think it's a great answer.
Isolating is common. When the stress gets too much, we tend to isolate. And again, I don't want to harp on this, but when we isolate, we tend to want to spend time on our devices. When you feel like you're isolating, that is the time when, you know, put it down. I'm big on cell phone free Sundays. Any other thoughts on this? Hey, guys, listen, let me tell you something. This is a conversation you can have with your friends, or you're hanging out 1, 2, 3, and someone's talking about this. Don't ever think that you're not capable of having this conversation with friends. Let them know. Self-care. What do you do to help relieve this stress? So I tend to listen to music, go running, so not to take any anger out on the people around me. I get it. Awesome. I love it. All right. So I'll tell you what I like to do. You see this picture behind me? I like painting, acrylic pouring. It's the first one I've ever done. And like, if you Google acrylic pouring, I went and bought canvas. I bought all this paint. I took cups. I put a little hole in it, poured all paint. I lifted up. Oh, it's like awesome. Matter of fact, this one up here says imperfection. Sometimes I'll just take a paintbrush and canvas, and I did these blocks, and I didn't like how it was coming out. And I'm like, oh, that just doesn't look good. It's not perfect. And I'm like, you know what? It's perfectly imperfect. Imperfection. And I started thinking, how do I spell imperfection? Does it fit? And then I started painting it in there, and I even looked it up to make sure I spelled it right. And that's what I came out with. So self-care, one of the things that I enjoy doing is I love walking on the beach. I love playing golf, and I love painting. Just take a paint. I'll show you here. And listen, you don't even have to be good. I wish I was able to walk around the room with my camera. So look at this mess. It's like I just threw up colors on canvas, and it's, I don't know, it's got some texture. I don't even know what I was doing, but I didn't care. You go with what you feel. And then after I did that one, I did this one. So like this one is more, I don't know, it's like I'm going that way and this way and that way and different colors. So journaling is good. Writing is good. Painting is good. Volunteering. I volunteer every Saturday morning from 9 to 12. Usually it's like 8 to 11 or something. I don't get paid. I don't care what you're having me do. There's just a part of my heart that feels like I get to serve people. Again, I just think that's love. You want to build self-esteem? Darren, going back to your question about how do you like get those negative thoughts? Go serve people who are not as fortunate as you. And I'll tell you what, your life's going to change. If you don't feel that you can go to your parents to get what you think you need emotionally, give me some other significant adults in your life that you feel comfortable going to. If you needed a trusted adult in your life, who would you go to? Or better yet, can I ask this? How many of you feel that you don't have someone to go to? How many of you avoid going to anybody because you don't know how, or you don't know how they're going to respond? I see some of you shaking your head. And it's a tough question. Now imagine this, and I don't want to put you on the spot any further. You as student leaders, if you feel that talking to someone is difficult for whatever reason, you're afraid that you're going to be judged, your feelings aren't going to be validated, or you're thinking like, I don't want people to know how I'm feeling for whatever reason. Imagine all of your friends that are feeling the same way. So if you're not talking, they're not talking, nobody's talking. I think, my vulnerability has been my strength. How many of you think I'm any less of a man because I shared with you what I did to my ex-wife at the time? How many of you think I'm any less of a man because I'm in therapy or I'm on medication? I'll tell you what, when you start talking, you find out you're not alone. When you start talking, you find out you can help and support other people. Don't try and fix people, but just, validate them. It's okay to feel the way you feel, but it's also okay to have someone to talk to. And so remember, I don't want you to go through life and feel that you can't reach out. Hey, if I'm the last person you got to go to, you make sure you call me up at here tomorrow. And hey, man, don't ever think you're alone. You're smart people. You've been an honor and a pleasure to talk to tonight. You're going to do great things, man. Believe in yourself. And know that, mental health is just as important as your physical health. Are there any other questions, any other comments? I know you guys are busy and I'm taking up a lot of your time.
And I'm very grateful that you're here to talk to all of us. And thank you so much for proctoring and facilitating this. I'm just really grateful. And I think I speak on behalf of all of TYC and everybody here that we're very thankful to have you here today.
Thanks, Sean. I wish you the best next year at USC.
Thank you.
Go Trojans, but I'm a Clemson Tigers fan.
That's all right.
USC's pretty good. Hey, Darren, good luck at Northeastern, man. They have a great program. And the rest of you, good luck with whatever you're doing. Veronica, it was an honor. was on. You guys are beautiful people, man. Thank you.